Many Hunter x Hunter fans only know the Hisoka from the Madhouse Studio anime, but they don't know the creator of Hunter x Hunter Togashi has been giving Hisoka a brand new spotlight leading up to the Dark Continent. Hisoka has fought Chrollo and died, then came back to life, but I'll explain that a bit later. Hisoka has always been an interesting character as he was introduced alongside the main cast of Gon, Killua, Kurapika, and Leorio, but it felt like he had already developed compared to them, with him having a special obsession with the main character Gon and his growth, and his former leader of the Phantom Troop Chrollo as well. But Togashi left him out of the Chimera Ant arc, surprisingly, because it looks like it's an arc that would be perfect for Hisoka, given how important it was to the overall story. But I believe it's because Togashi wants Hisoka to really make his mark in the Dark Continent, and that's where we will see him truly have a big moment. But let's do a deep dive before I reveal what Togashi truly has planned for the man who stated bungee gum has the properties of both rubber and gum, and his transmuter Nen taken to the limits will expand further in the Dark Continent. The first way we get introduced to Hisoka is him taking off a dude's arm for bumping into him and not apologizing after, just showing you how savage this character Togashi intended him to be. We learn that Hisoka the magician, it's his second time doing the hunter exam, and would have got his hunter license the previous year, but attacked an examiner he didn't like, so shows that he doesn't care about the rules. Hisoka actually breaks the rules. In the beginning stage of the hunter exam phase 1, there's a guy who accuses the examiner of being a fake, and Hisoka kills that guy. Pretty much the guy's trying to trick the applicants of the hunter exam, and he kills this monkey too that looks exactly like Satat's, the examiner. Hisoka explains how he knew the real examiner was by attacking all three. Of course, the examiner should have been able to dodge, and Satat says good job, but the next time you attack an examiner, you will be disqualified, as the vulture swoop in on the dead body, showing how graphic Hunter x Hunter is from the beginning, and Hisoka is the perfect character to show that. Killua then warns Gon to run ahead because Hisoka looks like he wants to kill, not just kill, he wants to kill again and again and again. Hisoka then attacks Leorio and says he's playing examiner, so Hisoka has this sick thing where he wants to determine who's going to be a hunter while he's not even a hunter himself. Hisoka's bored, so he's going to start judging if they should be accepted, and he starts killing for fun and says I haven't failed when the hunter applicants accuse Hisoka for failing as well because the mist and the cloud. He's like, no, I'm good. You guys are the ones that are in trouble, not me, showing how confident he is. Hisoka then says a true magician never reveals his tricks, a lesson before dying for all these failed applicants. Like, Hisoka definitely has wisdom, but he does it in a very dark manner. Hisoka then says there's so many dropouts after going on a brutal killing spree, one of the most brutal killing sprees I've ever seen in a manga, and Leorio and Kurapika are just completely shocked at what they're witnessing. Then we see this character named Cherry who says that Hisoka is a homicidal maniac, an entire army could be backing us up and we still would have no chance, and tells Kurapika and Leorio to split up and run. But Leorio doesn't run, and he goes to attack Hisoka, and before he does this, Gon actually comes with a fishing rod for his first hit on Hisoka in the entire story. This is the first time we see Hisoka actually take damage, and it's by the main character Gon Freaks, who's saving Leorio. Hisoka then one-shots the brave Leorio, who of course chose not to run. I gotta respect it. Hisoka then goes on to choke Gon and says the fact that he was helping makes him a loyal friend. Hisoka respects that loyalty from Gon. Hisoka then passes Leorio and Gon in his sick own hunter exam, and even tells Gon that he would make a good hunter. After this meeting with Hisoka, Gon is in complete confusion. Like, he just like, what did I just run into? And remember earlier when Tompa explained that applicant 76 Cherry was a martial artist and the best unarmed in combat? Yeah, Hisoka destroyed him even after he ran, and we see him hanged up upside down in a tree with the cards on him. Yeah, this guy is a sick individual. After this whole exchange, Gon is confused why Hisoka passed him and Leorio, and Kurapika says Gon landed a hit. So then Gon replies, yeah, I landed a hit, but he completely destroyed Leorio. And Kurapika says Hisoka relies on instincts. He also says he's too bloodthirsty to be a hunter, which I agree. Like, this Hisoka looks like he doesn't even care about being a hunter. And Kurapika says his technique is brilliant, his dexterity is superhuman in terms of combat, and Kurapika admits he has never encountered someone of equal strength to Hisoka, which makes me curious on how Hisoka versus the Royal Guards during the Chimera Ant would go, because he gets hyped up so much in the beginning for not to be in such a pivotal arc like the Chimera Ant arc. Kurapika then says Hisoka probably thinks it's too early to kill Gon right now, and Gon says he felt a weirdness with the dead bodies and the killer Hisoka walking towards him during their exchange. Gon even said he knew he was dead, but he felt an excitement, foreshadowing for me Gon fighting Hisoka at the end of the story in the final saga. Why Togashi can't kill Hisoka. Like, this guy came back from the dead, showing how Togashi really wants Hisoka versus Gon in the Dark Continent, in my opinion. We then see the Hunter Examiners all gathered up, and they notice Hisoka's cold blood lust as he threw it out as a subtle threat, which I found interesting. In terms of talent, Satot says that he's on the same level as the Examiners, and he prefers to strike from the shadow, and Hisoka is an anomaly that appears from time to time. And I would say Killua and Jing Freaks are like that as well. When it comes to Killua, who was in the second time doing the Hunter exam, how he destroyed it like in instant time, and he was the last person to do that was Jing Freak. So you gotta put respect, and respect is due. We then see this Examiner who wants revenge for, of course, Hisoka scarring him the last exam, and this time wants to kill Hisoka. Doesn't want to judge him if he could be a hunter, but Hisoka says he sees no improvement, and of course the hunter examiner says he's just warming up, showing how legit Hisoka is. We see this hunter examiner named Togari say that pretty much he went from 2 blades to 4 blade style, and asks how it feels for all these blades coming at Hisoka at once, and admits that Hisoka, you can't dodge them all. And I feel like this guy really improved from the last time he saw Hisoka, and Hisoka is definitely not taking him serious. Hisoka then catches the blades, which completely shocks Togari. Like, he's thinking, how is this guy doing these things? We learned Togari actually spent 6 months practicing to catch those blades, and pretty much starts complaining and says it's not fair. And I hate guys like this talking about it's not fair. Listen, if someone is stronger than you, that means you just didn't practice enough, and you just weren't lucky enough sometimes too. You gotta work hard enough so you can get lucky. And I feel like he had that loser mentality, and that's why Hisoka destroyed this hunter. Even though this guy was higher qualified, because Hisoka is trying to be a hunter and this guy's an examiner, yeah, Hisoka destroyed him with relative ease. Again, the Hunter x Hunter manga is way more graphic than the anime, and Hisoka cuts off his head and is the first to pass that phase of the exam, so I thought that was very interesting. When Hisoka is talking to Illumi, we see his wound from his battle against the Hunter Examiner Togari. So it's not like Hisoka completely low diff, like no one shot, like zero like difficulty. No, there was some difficulty because he did take a wound from the blades. And it does show Hisoka is still human. He's not completely a monster. We then see a man with a spear approach Hisoka, and Hisoka says, "Did you come for your death?" We learn that he's already been wounded and wants to die a warrior, and Hisoka likes lively fighters, not dead ones, so doesn't even give him the respect of killing him. And we notice that Illumi was actually the one who gave him that deadly wound and let him try to go out his way. Illumi let him get his last wish, and Illumi says Hisoka always does this, doesn't bother killing them. He only kills, and Hisoka says he only kills those that are worthy. It'd be such a waste of their full potential. So I like how Hisoka does pick and choose who he does kill. He's not just like killing for no reason, like just doesn't really care. He actually does think and is very methodical for who he kills. We then see Hisoka uses his hand as a binocular in a very iconic scene that we always see when Hunter x Hunter is mentioned. And we see him see Leorio and Kurapika and other Hunter applicants. Hisoka just really scoping out the competition. Gon then steals Hisoka's badge while he was fighting with his fishing rod. Again, this fishing rod really was clutch for Gon in the beginning of the series. Right after this, Gon gets shot with a dart and loses his ability to move and loses Hisoka's badge as well, only for Hisoka to cut off the head of the character named Gareta, who actually shot Gon with a dart. And honestly, Hisoka actually pays respect to Gon's plan and how he waited patiently to obtain his badge while he attacked someone else. Hisoka is so impressed with Gon's tactics that he leaves his badge behind and knows Gon will recover before the 10 days it usually takes when someone shoots with a dart of that level. Gon then, of course, stands up, which is completely shocking, and Hisoka tells Gon that he owes him one now when it comes to the badge. Hisoka then says, "I prefer to let you stay alive so you can become a strong, worthy opponent," as Gon is just pretty much refusing Hisoka giving him his badge. And Hisoka gives him a crazy punch to the face and says, "When you're able to do this, that's when I'll take my badge back," which shows it's very an abstract thought of like pretty much Hisoka's giving Gon a challenge. Yes, that's right. Until you can land a punch like that, then I'll take the badge back, and gives Gon a set goal other than finding Jing. Talk about the detours of you have a main goal, but you have so many mini goals too as well. It's like a video game that's going on in Hunter x Hunter. Speaking of Greed Island, when the chairman Netero asks why Hisoka wants to be a hunter, he says he wants to kill and not take responsibility for it. I think this is pretty ballsy that he's telling the chairman of the Hunter Association this. Netero then asks Hisoka who has his attention, and he says Killua has his attention the most, and Gon someday, he wants to fight Gon in the future, pretty much his potential. Netero then asks who he doesn't want to fight, and then he admits, I don't want to fight Gon. And pretty much then he says, the person I want to fight the most is Netero. And Netero just casually doesn't really care, and this is what annoys Hisoka, the fact that Netero is not paying attention to him. While he is kind of paying attention, he's not really looking at Hisoka. And Hisoka almost lost his mind, almost crashed out and like tried to attack Netero, which I found interesting. We learned that Poco, one of the final applicants, doesn't want smoke with Hisoka. And Bodoro thinks he's the most dangerous, but he knows it's inevitable that he's going to have to fight him. And then when Netero asks Gon, he says that Hisoka's on his head. And then Hanzo says that Hisoka is the most dangerous and doesn't want to fight him. And Hanzo's pretty strong when it comes to the final applicants. And then Kurapika says Hisoka has his attention, but in a negative way, while Gon has his attention in a positive way. So you're seeing how Hisoka is a main target for a lot of the final applicants. During the final phase of the exam, Hisoka whispers to Kurapika during their fight, after they fought for a little bit, and then quits. So I found that interesting because definitely Hisoka told him, I have information on the spiders. Hisoka then destroyed Bodoro and whispered in his ear for him to admit defeat as well. Probably had to do with Gon and Killua. I believe Killua actually, because he did admit that he didn't want to fight any of the kids. So that's my guess. It never really was clarified. After Illumi's confrontation with Gon, he understands why Hisoka wanted to keep Gon alive. And Hisoka notices his arm, and yes, he admits, yes, Gon broke his arm, and says he's very interesting, and Hisoka replies, isn't he? So I feel like Hisoka is really pretty much telling Illumi, this is what I've been telling you for so long, this guy has great potential. And we've seen it in the Chimera Ant arc when he became an adult. Yeah, that real guard had no chance and was scared for the King Meruem. Hisoka then says Gon is mine as Illumi looks like he wants to kill him, and reveals he will wait patiently until the fruit matures and is ready. And all I'm thinking is, yo, Hisoka, you need help. I get what you mean, but a lot of people are going to take that like, yo, this guy's a creep. Fast forward all the way to the next arc, the Heaven's Arena arc. Well, not the next arc exactly, but you guys know what I mean. One of the next arcs, we see Gon and Killua notice this murderous aura and is surprised to see Hisoka is in Heaven's Arena. But he says, I love fighting, so why are you guys surprised? Hisoka finally then admits that he was following them, and he pretty much says it's too soon for them to walk on the ground of this floor, which I found badass. It's like he's protecting them from something they're not ready for. Wing then explains how Hisoka is doing this by pretty much saying Hisoka's using what's actually Nen, because Wing has been teaching them some sort of bullshit Nen. And then we see Hisoka by himself waiting on that floor, and he says it's too soon as he uses Nen on his cards. I really appreciate how his power in this moment is used to like protect Gon and Killua. I feel like Hisoka really is a long-term guy, so I feel like he's definitely great for story purposes. Gon and Killua, after being taught by Wing, are able to use aura to get past Hisoka's wall, and he welcomes them and says they won't get baptized by his aura. Hisoka even says he looked more confident after learning Nen, and says Nen is a very deep concept, as of course just explaining Nen would take a whole video for you guys, so I understand what Hisoka means. And he makes a skull out of his Nen. Kind of reminds me of what Jing was doing with the Beyond's people, his men. And then he keeps real and says he doesn't want to fight Gon. But he does say, I will fight you, Gon, if you get one win on this floor. So he gives him a kind of a challenge in a sense. And then we get the whole situation of Kastro, who thanks Hisoka for his baptismal loss that he took to Hisoka back in the days, like 9 fights before. He went on a 9-fight streak. And tells Hisoka now he's strong, and Hisoka really doesn't care. We see Hisoka get hit, and I feel like it was interesting because he was sure that he avoided the right hand by Kastro. And Kastro tells him to fight for real. This is one of the first times we've seen Hisoka actually vulnerable in a fight. Kastro tells Hisoka don't hold back, and tells him he's changed since 2 years, and pretty much that he won't hold back on his next hit. And Killua thinks it's an illusion. Me too, because I'm thinking, how is he able to do that to the monster? Like, he's been a monster up until this point. We then see Kastro kick him in the face, like he used instant transmission, like he was Goku or something. Hisoka realizes it's an illusion, which is crazy because Hisoka isn't a magician, so the fact that someone's using illusion on him is just insane. Kastro gets serious with his bite of tiger attack, and it's like a martial art attack that Killua explains. And it kind of reminds you of Killua's grandfather, his attack. And Hisoka offers up his arm when Kastro goes to attack, which was just crazy. Hisoka doing this actually figures out Kastro for having a double, which I found very interesting. It shows how people don't like to look at it, but Hisoka is one of the smartest characters in the entire series. And fighting in Nen, you need to have intellect. But I think when it comes to, like, he's like one of the top tier smart characters. I would put him up there, like top like 5 to 10 smart characters in Hunter x Hunter. We then see Hisoka answer Kastro, who asks if he'll still be arrogant, and he says maybe. It would even give me the envy of beginning as he bites his arm. Like, this guy's a complete sicko. Like, just sometimes you don't understand what's going on in Hisoka's mind. We then see Hisoka enter his magic bag and turns his arm into cards and says choose a figure on a card and memorize it, and starts doing this quick maths. After this crazy math and dividing and multiply, he pulls out a card out of his arm. That's the answer. And after his quick math, he gives it as a souvenir. And Killua says, what's with the arrogance? As Hisoka is just moving mad. Like, it looks like there's no point of what he's doing. Kastro goes to attack again, and Hisoka offers up his arm, his remaining arm, to get cut off again. Like, this guy is playing some mind games that even me, who I've read in Hunter x Hunter so many times and watched it so many times, when I reread it, I still get confused when Hisoka's doing these things. Kastro double attacks, his doppelganger attacks, and Hisoka planned to attack with his right arm, showing that everyone's shocked that he has his right arm back. Hisoka then gives respect to Kastro's net ability, saying, I respect that you can make a double of yourself, but I understand and you don't understand my techniques. And Hisoka lets him live because he could have been a skilled fighter. And then Hisoka predicts Kastro is going to sink into insanity and die. So the fact that Hisoka is predicting what's going to happen is just insane. Hisoka then lets Kastro know that your double doesn't show damage, it's a mental copy. And Hisoka uses his severed left arm to punch him and shake up his core. And pretty much tells him it's useless because it's useless to try to recover and it's useless to dodge my next attacks. Saying it's like checkmate in a sense. Or, yeah, he pretty much took his king and chess. It's over. Kastro is shocked as the cards come towards him. The signature Hisoka cards that have killed so many people in the Hunter exam. And he tries to use his double, but Hisoka says it won't help because he can't make it anymore. And it uses too much of his nen to actually make a double, and he can only do it in normal situations. Pretty much telling Kastro, you should have been prepared for a situation like this. Hisoka then tells Kastro it's a hard task to make a human appear and then make him move freely. It's such a hard task, like pretty much the necessary task made Kastro forget his other skills. And like pretty much saying that your memory just became shit because you had to learn so much things. The word Hisoka uses is the superfluous memory. It pretty much means more than enough info than you actually needed, and that's the reason for his defeat. Hisoka literally lets him know, yeah, your memory was your issue for your defeat, and mind and memory, that's all connected. So I gotta give respect to respect is due, because Hisoka has all the possibilities, but his mental mind, memory, and remembering things is also strong as well. To do that, to multitask like that, I gotta give respect to respect is due. So after Hisoka's big battle with Kastro, we see Machi waiting for him and actually compliments him on his battle with Kastro. And Machi explains how Hisoka could have ended the match without even going so far. Hisoka then uses bungee gum to make a covering out of a handkerchief and connect it to his arm. Then he uses texture surprise, or defeats deceitful texture. I like to go with texture surprise to create a layer of skin. Machi believes these two nen are the reason why he beat Kastro. Bungee gum is first explained here to have both rubber and gum to his nen. This is the iconic line that we've seen countless times from Hisoka. He can fix it and detach it at any time, and he got the name from when he was a kid. It was an iconic bubblegum candy. For texture surprise, he has strength of his thoughts to his aura, and it materializes through support, and he puts it on a thin surface, and if you touch it you can know it's fake, but this is kind of retcon later on, and it has a surprise effect that really messes with people's minds. Also, he got this from a famous candy as well. Hisoka's past as a kid is very interesting, and I'll touch upon that towards the end of the video. Machi then explains how he took 13 cards and spread them while throwing a scarf in his right arm to the roof with bungee gum, which was tied to his right arm. The 13 cards also fixed to the door and tied to the other extremities to the left arm of Hisoka, and got the aura lodged into Kastro's body. That's how a lot of the things were working during this battle. Hisoka then used his amazing Zetsu, and Kastro didn't use Ren to notice because Hisoka wasn't trying, and then lined up his left arm to his chin. Thanks to surprise texture or his scarf on the floor that helped replace his right arm and covered up the wound with the scarf. Surprise texture had no effect since Kastro knew only an expert beyond normal could do an illusion of an arm reappearing with nen, so bungee gum was the reason why he beat Kastro. It was more so psychological. The hit pretty much was the reason why. Like, if he stayed calm, he could have had an honorable battle, Kastro, but the psychological hit was too much for him. Hisoka pretty much maxes out those two nen and doesn't lose any power even if he's in a bad state. That's why he's able to lose both his arms and still do damage, unlike Kastro. It's also said that Hisoka doesn't like to talk about his past because it doesn't interest him, and pretty much tomorrow he'll forget about Kastro's face as we see his spider tattoo for the first time. Hisoka takes off his tattoo and says he's not really interested anymore because he has a new hunt, and he thinks the reason why Hisoka's mindset is pretty much he thinks he's the strongest. That's why he has no master. So that's why the leader of the Phantom Troop, Chrollo, can't be his master. And that's why he was a fake troop from the beginning. After Gon Freaks wins a couple of matches on the 200th floor, Hisoka says he's qualified and they pick this time and day of when they're going to fight. Before the match begins, Hisoka gets a huge Nen boner over Gon like he is EDP or something. I think he got cupcakes in his Nen abilities or something as well. And Wing says Hisoka has a really powerful aura. They tussle for a bit, and after a while, Hisoka gets a clean hit and tells Gon to come forward with his hand forward motion. It's then realized that Hisoka hasn't moved from his spot during this entire beginning stages of this battle, and Killua notices Hisoka isn't having a lot of fun in this fight. Gon then throws a piece of the ring and punches it into pieces and does a sneak attack to Hisoka's face. This was really impressive. After this, Gon returns Hisoka's badge that I talked about earlier since he landed a punch on the monster, the same way Hisoka landed a punch on him during, I think it was phase 2 or phase 4 of the Hunter exam. Hisoka then does his Nen test on his personality test on Gon and says you're an enhancer. Hisoka explains that Gon is pure and simple as most enhancers, and he's a transmuter, which is whimsical and a liar, and they would get along. But Killua was like, yeah, it makes sense. Gon's like, it makes sense as well. Like, everybody just knows that, yeah, you definitely are a liar. One of the greatest liars I've seen in anime and manga when it comes to Hisoka. Hisoka then attacks and kicks a piece of the ring into the stands, showing his insane power. Hisoka then uses bungee gum to pull Gon into him and punch the shit out of him as well. Hisoka then asks Gon when did he put bungee gum to his cheek, and Gon gets the answer wrong, and Hisoka says when I was analyzing your personality. So it's kind of interesting how Gon definitely is not on the same level as Hisoka at all during this battle in Heaven's Arena, and pretty much says you would have saw it if you were using Geo. Hisoka can adjust his bungee gum while fighting, but can use hidden Nen when his opponent has his guard down. Hisoka says it doesn't matter when he's fighting, as Gon Killua realize who cares if you can see if you can't avoid the hits. Wing also realizes you also gotta avoid his Nen when he defends because he can adjust it then too. Hisoka gets horny when waiting for Gon to become strong and wishes he could destroy him right now in this battle. And then we see a situation where Gon is pretty much complaining to the judges about Hisoka, how he's getting his points, and Hisoka fixes his Nen to one of the stones, and one of the stones that Gon broke earlier, and shrunk his bungee gum without Gon realizing it. Hisoka then tells Gon if he fought him 10 times it would be more interesting, and this will be the last fight they have here in Heaven's Arena, as Hisoka won by points by the judges, like some sort of boxer. It just shows, like, he reminded me of Floyd Mayweather, how he wins on points, showing how technical Hisoka is as a fighter. Hisoka then tells Gon that the next fight they have will have no rules or points, and the next battle will be a battle to the death. This is why Gon has to enter the Dark Continent for me personally. A lot of people are against me saying that because they think, oh, Gon's done, he has no Nen, his story's over. No, I think this scene right here is the reason why he has to go to the Dark Continent, because Hisoka has to be there as well, and their fight has to happen. Togashi won't waste this potential dream fight that he's been building up since the beginning of the series. Fast forward to the Yorknew arc, we see Chrollo and the Phantom Troop, and Chrollo says there is no traitor in the Phantom Troop, and Uvogan questions that, and pretty much says that nobody in the Phantom Troop cares about money, glory, or power. Nobody's satisfied by that in the troop. He's right, but Hisoka wants to fight him. That's what he's satisfied by, his bloodlust to fight the strongest. I found it interesting how Chrollo also knows that Hisoka's up to no good when he asks if he can leave to go meet with someone. And Hisoka says, but of course, when Chrollo says, are you up to no good? He's like, yes, of course. Like I said, Hisoka wants to team up with Kurapika to take down Chrollo. That's why he whispered to Kurapika he knows something about the spider. Yo, Hisoka's always thinking a couple steps ahead. I found it hilarious how when Gon and Killua get captured, Killua knows the program not to act like he knows Hisoka, and Hisoka's like, please play dumb, but Gon almost exposed that he knew Hisoka by saying hey, and Killua called him an idiot. It was a funny moment here. I also thought it was interesting how Hisoka stopped Killua from saving Gon. I think this could be looked at like, oh, he was stopping Killua because if any other Phantom Troop stopped Killua might not have been living in the story. But a lot of people looked at it as just more Hisoka not trying to expose his loyalty, so he has to kill Killua here. Killua even admits if Killua moved a little bit, he would have killed him. His lust to kill paralyzed Killua's Zoldyck. That's insane because of who Killua is as a character. And when the Phantom Troop faked their deaths, Hisoka called Kurapika to let him know the Phantom Troop are still alive, but Kurapika thought he wanted to console him, so he didn't answer that phone call. So Hisoka has to text Kurapika to know the corpse was fake by text, showing that the job's not done. We then see, of course, Chrollo stealing that fortune-telling ability, and he tries to do fortunes on everybody. When he does Hisoka's fortune exposes him and his what he's been doing behind the scenes. So Pakanoda asks to see it. Hisoka then says, if I were to show you, I wouldn't read it if I were you. You wouldn't take it too well. And this is where Hisoka starts planning his schemes. After the Phantom Troop read the fortune Hisoka gives them, Nobunaga wants to kill him right away, and Hisoka stops answering questions. I feel like this is showing how smart Hisoka is as a character, like I talked about. Hisoka says he can't say any more and can only fight to protect himself against the Phantom Troop. Like I told you, this is a genius move by Hisoka because it's a loser situation, so you're going to get exposed for some of the things you've done, but if you act like it's not by your choice, definitely can help you. And Nobunaga says pretty much it's a pain to fight Hisoka anyways, showing that Nobunaga, even when he's angry, still respects Hisoka's power. But Nobunaga, who he is as a Phantom Troop member, doesn't care and still attacks Chrollo. And still attacks Hisoka, and Nobunaga has to be moved out of the way by Chrollo's Nen teleportation ability. We then see a situation where Chrollo asks Hisoka some questions, and of course Hisoka doesn't want to expose Kurapika, which angers Nobunaga because they're just trying to get the chain user, and Kurapika is the chain user. Chrollo then breaks down the sort of law that's been placed on Hisoka, and Hisoka says that Chrollo's brilliant, and I'm going to enjoy killing you because, yeah, Hisoka's thinking this guy is actually on the same level as me when it comes to intelligence. And the reason why Hisoka's so impressed by Chrollo is because he made up everything. It was done by his texture surprise. He made up the fortune to protect himself, of course, because if the real fortune was revealed, yeah, it would not be looking too good for Hisoka. Hisoka then is stuck at the hideout because the other Phantom Troop know that he's been compromised, so they want to keep him there. But also, Hisoka still wants to kill Chrollo, so he calls Illumi, whose loyalties are with Hisoka, but it's going to cost him because he does know Chrollo as well, so he feels like he got to get paid for what he's about to do. And that's where we see Kaito join in the picture, Kaito being with Illumi earlier when they were assassinating the Mafia Tendons. So yeah, Kaito helps switch out Hisoka and Illumi, and they do this cool little stunt here. Hisoka then threatens to kill Gon and Killua if Kurapika doesn't let him hop on the airship so he can kill Chrollo. And Pakano was just shocked that Hisoka was doing all these things behind her back. He's completely shocked how the Phantom Troop been fooled by this intelligent character. Hisoka then finds out Chrollo's Nen is gone, and Kurapika pulled one over him, and he's just heartbroken that he can't fight Chrollo and loses all interest. Hisoka then tells Pakanoda his fortune, and then says goodbye. It's kind of like Hisoka knew that Pakanoda was not gonna be living anymore. Fast forward to Greed Island, we see Hisoka use Chrollo's name on Greed Island, and Finks wanted to kill him but was going to leave it to the boss as they look for this Nen exorcist because they now know that Hisoka is working with Chrollo. Chrollo got Hisoka working for him in exchange for a fight, which I'll talk about in great detail. Hisoka then sees Gon and Killua on Greed Island as they run into each other, and says they've grown since last time they saw each other, and didn't know Biscuit was a master, but does know her Nen by using his personality testing that he does Nen for. And then he's forced to lie to Gon when Gon asks why he's on Greed Island because he's not trying to delay his fight with Chrollo. Instead he just says he's looking for Chrollo, which is obvious cap. Biscuit asks him to join, and pretty much says she's looking for strong people, but knows Hisoka's lying. And also we see a situation where Gorenu, who was pretty strong himself, knows Hisoka and Biscuit are monsters and got pretty scared in this interaction here. Killua then finds out why Hisoka is lying and how he met the spiders already and is waiting for the Nen exorcist, and Killua gets Gon to ask to see Hisoka's binder, but he uses texture to surprise to fool them. I want Hisoka to try this type of shit on Jing because I think it would be very funny if he tries to fool Jing but it doesn't work. And Hisoka kind of reminds me of Periston, a darker version of Periston. Even though Periston himself is dark, I feel like Periston will turn more into that dark, sinister Hisoka the more he grows his hatred for Jing, and the dark content also affects him. We then see during Greed Island, Razor comes into the picture, a very strong character who's destroying Gorenu and Tezgura, He's some pretty powerful Nen user, so Hisoka uses his bungee gum and then taunts him to go hard, which he obliges, showing that Hisoka knew that Razor wasn't going all out. Razor then respects Hisoka's throw as he plans to save Razor for last. That's what Hisoka says. Hisoka then gets his ball caught by Razor and admits that Razor is pretty strong. And if Hisoka thinks you're strong. Then we see bungee gum elastic love helps Hisoka catch the ball that Razor threw that surprisingly went for him instead of Killua. In this moment, Hisoka realizes the ball is less powerful when thrown from the outside, and he only injured 2 of his fingers without using Ko, so it's pretty impressive. After Gon runs up and sends the ball flying with Jajinkin, Razor uses his entire body to deflect it, which is pretty strong, but Hisoka's bungee gum retrieves the ball, so Razor is forced to use back, helping out the dodgeball game for Gon, Killua, Hisoka, and that side in general. Razor then goes full power, and Hisoka, Gon, Killua team up to catch the ball. Hisoka using his power to cushion the ball's momentum so Gon wouldn't drop it. And right when they're about to win, Hisoka is so sick in the head, he actually grabs the ball that was gonna be the winning situation and says Gon desired a total win. We then see him use Elastic Love bungee gum rubber reflection to deflect the ball back to Razor, which just shows how a madman that Hisoka is. Hisoka's bungee gum has the properties of both rubber and gum, and that's how he actually beats Razor, by sticking the ball to Razor as he falls outside the lines. Hisoka knew about the spell cards the entire time, and Biscuit says Hisoka is the kind of guy who lies for no reason, while Killua and herself actually lie for a reason, which makes me think that Hisoka is the greatest liar, because when you lie for no reason, it's hard to actually tell when you're lying and when you're telling the truth. Finks then calls Hisoka, saying they found the Nen Exorcist, showing that Hisoka's time playing with Gon and Killua definitely was a great time to waste some time before he gets back to his main purpose. Then when Hisoka reconvenes with the Phantom Troop, he senses Karuto without N, which freaks out Nobunaga, because like, how is he able to do that? Karuto's just completely shocked because she feels like her Zetsu was perfect, and gets confirmation from Machi and Nobunaga, who just say Hisoka is just insanely perceptive. And pretty much they say that Karuto is his replacement, which he finds very appetizing, showing that this guy's not really picky, and he's definitely on his EDP stuff over here again. Machi then chooses Chrollo over Hisoka, which Hisoka definitely wanted her to choose him. Hisoka really is fond of Machi and her Nen stitching, and says she will hunt him down to the ends of the earth if he kills Chrollo, which, I'll be honest with you, Hisoka likes the sound of that when he hears her say this. We then see the Nen Exorcist go to Hisoka and tells himself he's gonna make a fortune after Gon won Greed Island. I want to say a side note as well, Hisoka was ranked the 3rd strongest in the Phantom Troop when it comes to arm wrestling, only behind Uvogan and Finks, who are pretty much monsters when it comes to physical strength, not just in the Phantom Troop, but in the Hunter x Hunter series in general. The next time we see Hisoka is the election arc, after one of the greatest arcs and longest arcs, Chimera Ant, and he is raiding the Zodiac's power, which I was honestly, thank you Hisoka, because I was wondering how strong some of these guys were. While he was also looking for Jink Freaks, he asked the Zodiacs, do you know where Jink Freaks is, which is interesting. We know Chrollo loves the strong, so he probably wants to see his power level. And we saw that Kanze, I think, was 8.5, and Ginta was 9, and Peon was 7.7, which are pretty powerful scalings when it comes to Hunters, especially because they're Zodiacs. And I want to see how he would rate Jing's power, as well as he's Gon's father, and he's obsessed with Gon Freak's potential. So look at Jing, and that is where Gon's going to end up, probably maybe even stronger in the future. Kanze then sees Hisoka chilling and waiting around, so he tells him to get lost, and Hisoka is disappointed in the pro hunters as their power scaling was pretty low. And he thinks he's going to go after the Zodiacs until he actually sees a 9.5 rating arrive. This rating belonged to none other than Illumi, who gives Hisoka a summary of the Chimera Ant arc, how pretty much he lost the opportunity to fight Netero and the Ant King, and lets him know that Gon's almost dead, which completely shocks Hisoka. Like I said, guys, from after Greed Island all the way to the election arc, Hisoka was pretty much gone, so he definitely needed to catch up through this. So continuing the election arc, Hisoka hears out Illumi's whole speech about Alluka, aka the Calamity from the Dark Continent, and Hisoka and Illumi pretty much are heading there now on opposite sides, Illumi being a Phantom Troop member and Hisoka trying to take out the Phantom Troop. But how long will that last? Because their friendship is deeper, though they always seem like they can kill each other at any moment. I also found it hilarious how Illumi thought he was closer to Killua than Gon, and Hisoka says, I have issues, but you are just something else. And Illumi says, you will die too, kind of explained to Hisoka that everybody's a threat when it comes to Alluka. Hisoka then asked if he can kill Killua, and Illumi's bloodlust oozes everywhere. It was wild. It shows how Hisoka really is pushing Illumi's buttons. We learned that Hisoka did this on purpose and wants Gon to live pretty much wants all of his toys. So Hisoka definitely has a lot of things that he wants for the future. Goto asks Hisoka who he is, and he says, "I'm just a magician who wants to be unknown." Really feels like this is definitely alluding to his past as why he has his magician moniker and like plays with cards. Goto then says Canary and Amani to dodge and get out of here, showing that Goto knows that Hisoka is too strong, and it's a battle of coins versus cards, and we'll find out the outcome sooner than later. Hisoka catches the coins and explains his iconic line of like the properties of both rubber and gum is what his nen is, pretty much. Goto then tells Hisoka, "Why are you explaining your techniques?" which is every anime fan wonders, and Hisoka says, "I have nothing to hide from the dead," which just shows how confident he is in his bungee gum. And Goto says, "I hope you don't regret it." Goto then traps Hisoka, so he disengages his bungee gum from his feet because the coins were actually rotating. So definitely Goto is not a novice when it comes to nen. And then Hisoka gives Goto a pop quiz, and pretty much this pop quiz was just like a head fake, a pump fake, because pretty much Goto crashes out and starts shooting his coins recklessly, and then Hisoka just kills him instantly. We then see a moment where Hisoka tries to trick Illumi with texture surprise, but fails because Illumi has his own note, so I thought that was funny. And when Hisoka went out to fight, they thought Hisoka was worth dozens of strong soldiers, showing how powerful he is. Hisoka then runs into a situation where he has to pick. Does he piss off Killua or does he piss off Illumi? Because he definitely wants to kill both of them. Hisoka then deduces that he should plan to kill Alluka, which will piss off Killua, and then kill Killua, which will piss off Illumi. Like, this shows how sick in the head Hisoka is. We then see Hisoka kill this double star hunter Pterodon with pretty much relative ease, even though Morel said he's not that strong. Now, moving from the election arc, we get to the succession arc, and we start off with Chrollo versus Hisoka, a dream come true for Hisoka at Heaven's Arena, a very iconic place where Gon and Hisoka fought earlier, I mentioned. The fight starts off with Chrollo getting the judge to attack Hisoka and plans to stab him with an antenna that's from Shalnark, and then it goes into attack himself while the judge is attacking and faints. After this feint, Hisoka gets stomped out by Chrollo. While he's getting stomped out, he tries to see what he can manipulate in this battle. Hisoka then bungee gums the judge at Chrollo, and Hisoka realizes Chrollo wants a drawn out battle, which makes him happy because the longer he gets to fight Chrollo, the more better it's fun for him. Hisoka then kills the judge, but then realizes the blood can be bad and bungee gums the hell out of there. We also see a moment where Hisoka is insulted that Chrollo's being flashy. And Chrollo says, "I'm trying to win too," because it looks like he's also trying to be flashy and win, which Hisoka doesn't like. Like, you should really just care about the outcome when it's these two strong characters. Chrollo then tells Hisoka to be careful because there's multiple abilities with Bookmark, and so with the Bookmark he can use multiple abilities. And Hisoka says, "Fight comfortably, and a battle is a dance, move to each other's beat." And like, pretty much Hisoka is just pretty much like saying that he's loving this battle. He wants Chrollo to be doing things that he wants to do in a sense. Chrollo offers to make 3 more abilities, and Hisoka says this is annoying and wonderful at the same time. Then Hisoka sets the record for abilities that Chrollo needed to kill him. So you gotta respect Hisoka that Chrollo has to use this much abilities to take him out. We then see Chrollo hyping up his planning when it comes to battle, and Hisoka says he loves when people that are planning all the time fail, like their plans crumble. He loves that shit. Hisoka then stops the puppet by taking off his head, and then asks for the last of the 3 abilities, which annoys Chrollo because it looks like Hisoka is just being like, okay, and next, like tired of the yapping from Chrollo. So pretty much Hisoka is done with the lecture, but Chrollo says one more thing. He has an ability that doesn't vanish when the owner dies, because a lot of his abilities that he steals actually vanishes when the owner dies. And that ability that doesn't vanish is from Meteor City. The leader of Meteor City, that ability is still there. From this Hisoka and Chrollo battle, we start to realize that Nen becomes strong after death is the theme of this match, which we got in the Chimera Ant arc, but it gets really heavy when it comes to Succession arc. Hisoka even says the fight is becoming troublesome, but still continues. Like, Chrollo gives him a chance if he doesn't want to continue, but he's like, yeah, I'll still go with it. Because Chrollo is giving that chance because he knows, yeah, the odds are stacked against Hisoka right here. Hisoka then realizes if he gets too close to Shalnark's antenna, it's dangerous, but if he stays away, it pretty much plays into Chrollo's hands. As the fight goes into the stands, it's hectic, and Chrollo uses a puppet to block Hisoka's sight. This fight is very complex. Another puppet jumps out of nowhere, and Hisoka has to kill 2 of these puppets, which in the time he kills them, Chrollo disappears. And we see that Hisoka is now breaking down Chrollo's movesets, which is Black Voice, which is from Shalnark, Bookmark, which is from one of the moves he stole, Convert Hands, transform it to someone else left hand, move the Bookmark to convert hands, close book, lie and wait. So that's how Hisoka breaks down pretty much Chrollo's movesets. and says it's quite troublesome. Hisoka then notices that the antenna is gone, which I found is very observant. Hisoka also noticed that gallery fake is activated and tries to find Chrollo, who thinks he switched clothes. Hisoka then uses bungee gum to wait it out as the audience is attacking him, which is just crazy. And then we see Chrollo punch Hisoka from the left flank, which is his blind spot, which confused him, but he loves it at the same time. Like, Hisoka's a freak in this situation. And as the puppets emotional, like, they have no emotion, so it's harder to deal with. Chrollo then kicks Hisoka, which is just showing that Chrollo has the upper hand in this battle. Hisoka realizes that Chrollo is going for guaranteed hits and hits that can really deal with him being alive. And Hisoka tries to decrease the numbers of the puppets. Hisoka then tries to bungee gum ahead towards Chrollo, but he was watching and definitely evades it and attacks Hisoka at the same time, which Hisoka says, I know. So Hisoka looks like he's one step ahead in this moment. Then we get information how the human head weighs 15 pounds, more than a bowling ball. So Hisoka, through his blind spot, actually bungee gums with his right foot and bungee gums ahead towards Chrollo. It kind of reminds me how Razor hit one at Tezgura, and Chrollo's bleeding a lot, showing that the damage was severe. And Hisoka thought that would be actually enough to take out Chrollo. After this, Chrollo jumps in the crowd, which makes sense as Hisoka tries another head attack, and Hisoka defeats all the puppets except the last one to see if Chrollo will take the stamp off or activate other puppets that are on standby. As Hisoka is looking for Chrollo, he then realizes that he's in the stands where the other puppets were on standby, so he can move freely. And this is how Hisoka actually finds him in the crowd. Hisoka then uses the crowd to his attack and starts attacking Chrollo with the crowd after realizing Chrollo's on the defense after the blow he just took. And he misses the attack that he used with one of the puppets' heads, but attaches his nen to Chrollo's leg and contracts, showing that Hisoka now feels like this is the time to actually strike. And Hisoka starts whooping Chrollo's ass, but we find out it was just a fake and Chrollo is not dead, and Hisoka realizes he's been tricked, showing how smart Chrollo is when it's all said and done. Hisoka realizes Chrollo's been planning this from the entire start, and pretty much that's what I want to talk about too a little bit. Hisoka, the thing with Hisoka, I think Hisoka is smarter than Chrollo, but Chrollo just plans way more advanced than Hisoka. It kind of reminds me, it's like a pseudo battle between like Batman and Joker. The only difference is I do think Batman's a little bit more intelligent than Chrollo when it comes to battle strategies, but Chrollo is more so, he can break it down better than anybody when it comes to the future and the outcome of the future. So that's why it looks like something like Chrollo does things without even like how does he even do it? It's crazy, which we see that Hisoka realized the sun and moon means less copies. Chrollo makes new copies every second. Hisoka realizes that as well, and Hisoka's gonna have to fight pretty much all out until he gets a full explosion, pretty much a sun and moon. That might be the climax of the battle. Chrollo then commands his puppets to the commentator, which I found hilarious, and 200 puppets attack Hisoka, who uses a human hammer to deflect them. Wow, it's just insane how this fight is. Hisoka gotta fight this dude 1v1 next time. If it's my opinion, I definitely feel like, yeah, don't fight in these ideal situations for Chrollo. Hisoka's hand then gets destroyed by Chrollo in an explosion that just completely shocks him. Hisoka then goes all out and contracts the body instead of just the head and takes the head off manually. After Chrollo outsmarted him, he definitely learned his lesson. And without his left hand, he can't be as precise with his nen. He just realized that. We then see another explosion and Hisoka loses his right leg. It's showing that Hisoka is really taking a lot of damage. And it's not like he did against Kastro where he's taking damage as to prove a point. It's more so he's taking damage because Chrollo is just having the edge right now. We then see Chrollo just hurling bodies at Hisoka. And it's just insane seeing Hisoka in this position. As Hisoka's falling, he questions if he's going to die. And then he says, if I'm going to die, I might as well. As it definitely alludes to Hisoka planning something to do with death. And Hisoka always has a plan, even for death. That's something you gotta realize too. After this huge explosion, we then realize that Hisoka died. And Shauna kind of explains how he died. It was a lack of oxygen from the blast and the mass of the flesh that was on top of him. Machi then goes to patch Hisoka and his nen activates, and she realizes quickly that nen intensifies after death, and Hisoka activates his nen gum to revive his vital organs after death. This is something that I think one of the greatest moments in Hunter x Hunter. Hisoka alive realizes fighting someone on Chrollo's level in his ideal conditions is hard to win. It's like a harsh reality for Hisoka, and he stops the bleeding without Machi's help with just texture surprise and heals himself with rubber hand and rubber legs. It definitely looks like Hisoka got a little bit stronger after he died. Hisoka then traps Machi and tells her to tell the spiders it's on site. Like, pretty much they're going to be killed on site if Hisoka catches them. Hisoka then kills Shalnark and Kartopi and says 10 to go. Though they didn't have their powers, I think Hisoka would have still killed them because he pretty much just fought Chrollo while using both of their powers at the same time and other powers. So Definitely feel like a lot of people are like, oh, they didn't have their powers. No, I think Hisoka would have still killed him. I think Togashi knows, the readers know that. That's why he did it so quickly, to show the impact of it. We find out later in the Succession arc that Chrollo actually wants to kill Hisoka too, which is a crazy concept. We also see Hisoka for the first time since his battle with Chrollo, and he has a new hairstyle. And in a situation where he sees these two characters, they try to punch him and he does a counter blow, and the other character says, this is such an oppressive aura. The funny thing is, this isn't even Hisoka. This is actually Bonalea from the Phantom Troop. We then see the real Hisoka with Heinrich, and he asks him or the spiders, who will win that battle. And the dude is on it. He says, yo, I'm team spiders. And it's funny because Hisoka is a power scaler at heart. That's one thing I noticed when I did this deep dive on Hisoka's character. We then learn why Hisoka wasn't there in the Command arc, because he followed Gon to Greed Island. Like, why wouldn't he go to the best arc in Hunter x Hunter? And he admits, yo, he didn't care about ants or Nenbis because he doesn't care about animal kinks and group play, and he wants a 1v1. So I think that's very interesting. He says it's sad, but I don't mind playing with myself. So definitely feel like Hisoka wants a 1v1 individual fight. He kind of reminds me a little bit like Netero in a sense, how Netero wanted a challenge. He didn't want the Dark Continent, harsh, pretty much extreme weathers. He wanted like an actual 1v1 opponent. Bonolev then says Hisoka's gum destroys him while he's transforming. It's a bad matchup for him. And pretty much Chrollo tells Bonolev to get out of there, but he's like, yeah, I already know I gotta get out of there. And Chrollo wants Hisoka bad. That's what I'm learning. That's what even Bonolev was realizing. He actually wants to kill Hisoka. And then we see Bonolev trick this IV guy. But the messed up situation is now Bonalea, the fake Hisoka, and the real Hisoka are both on tier 1 and could cause some damage. And Bonalea starts to realize that Chrollo's affected by Shalnark and Kurtopi's death the most and wants to pretty much kill Hisoka for good while ending the Phantom Troop maybe. So Chrollo's losing his legs and he's feeling it. I feel like Chrollo is definitely, throughout the series since the beginning of Yorknew to now, he's definitely it's taking a toll of him. Pakonoda, Shalnark, Evoken, a lot of the original Phantom Troops are being killed. Chrollo then admits he needs rare abilities to defeat Hisoka, giving the utmost respect to him, and he says he's taking a risk just running into him without being fully prepared, just showing how Hisoka is one of the strongest characters in the series. Now I could talk about Hisoka's one-shot done by Tokyo Ghoul creator, but I don't know if it's canon or not, so I'm gonna not do it. But it pretty much just, it reveals how Hisoka got connected to the whole magic circus route. Now I feel like Hisoka's a monster and a true problem, and I feel like he has gotten stronger after his death and came back alive, so he's capable of defeating a lot of the spiders. I think actually all the spiders, and if he does kill all the spiders, I think Togashi might have him even kill Chrollo and explore the Dark Continent where he can truly play by himself until his opponent, that 1v1 he's been looking for, enters. That's Gorn Freaks, and they can finish what they started. So debating the conversation, a lot of people don't agree with this, but I definitely feel like Hisoka and Gon are destined to meet each other. And Hisoka is endgame for Gon. He's like an endgame villain.